The upcoming expositions surrounding Hags have been written as if the players in this fictional campaign are reflecting upon their past events. These reflections are brought on by the surroundings of the players on their final approach to their ultimate foray into extraordinary danger. We at Encounter This would like to express a content and trigger warning for these expositions. They may contain dark themes and imagery, including, but not limited to, outdated cultural opinions, adult content, sexuality, child abuse, gore, and violence that may be uncomfortable for some audience members. Listener discretion is advised.
The shadows of this strange, otherworldly forest appear gaunt. You occasionally catch one moving or writhing out of the corner of your eye. The crunch of each long-dead leaf, like the air around you, not only sounds muted, it feels muted. As you march forward, you know what's happening, no matter how hard you try to put it out of your minds. Somehow, in some way, you are slowly walking through a long and drawn-out portal to the lower planes. A fact you needed to know, or you would not be here. A fact you wish you never discovered, so that you would not be here. That thought settles in your minds. You really do wish you did not need to be here. The slow passage between planes doesn't feel right, in that it is unsettlingly tangible. As such, you, Posey, can't help but reflect on the truly tangible for a moment, drawing your mind closer and closer to how this all started. A birthday party. The sentence starts to form in your thoughts, as if spoken aloud. A birthday party is where it all started.
Boy, oh boy, the air was abuzz. Our quaint little fishing town didn't have many birthdays to celebrate. There just wasn't that many of us. But this one was special. A tradition for as long as anyone could remember, and old enough that none recalled how it started. The 13th birthday of a young man or woman meant passage into adulthood. The celebrations began 3 days before, and Craycatcher's Bounty sure knew how to celebrate. A fine feast would be served from dawn till dusk, along with our finest stores of scallop wine and kelp stout. A revelry we like to think could match any those bigwig city folks was used to. Something else was special about that day as well, if largely ignored. Amy Craycatcher, or Twiggy as she liked to be called, was the maid of the hour. A troublesome girl, a real rabble-rouser. Daughter of the mayor, she was always kicking up a fuss. But not that stereotypical kind you see. Far from spoiled she was. That bastard of a father of hers took his hand to her far too often. The folks of Craycatcher's Bounty spent their time preparing celebrations for so-called troublemaker in the same fashion which with they regarded the many bruises over the many years little Twiggy endured. I am now ashamed to admit I was among them in the regard of shared disregard. I remember the morning I approached the town to do my part. Harry was already stringing up posters and placards. Harry, a companion to the last, in every sense of the word, my companion.
You snap back to reality. The image, no, not just an image, the unmistakable presence of one Harold Haller, Harry to you and those who knew him best, is all around you. You swear you just saw him. It was out of the corner of your eye, but most things are in this place. And it was the most full and detailed image you have seen in a long time. Your thoughts back in the present, you well up with embarrassment when you realize you're the one leading the party, and you've definitely lost track of where you're going. Posey, roll a survival check.
Hey there, creatures, and welcome to Encounter This, a podcast exploration of the creatures from Dungeons & Dragons and the lore that surrounds them.
Good day, creatures, and welcome to Encounter This. I am your co-host, Freeman Hocus Eyston, and I am joined today by my friend and colleague, James Pocus Kidd. And he is going to talk to us about Sea Hags today. But before we get started on that, I think it's important to note that this has turned into a big project. This is Haguary.
Haguary.
This was an idea that we birthed pretty early on in the construction of the format and stuff of our show. And we knew it would be a big project. It kind of turned into my big project, which is then going to turn into James's big editing project.
I'm lucky enough that Freeman took the reins on the front half.
I've rearranged the format of this show several times. I've spent the better part of the last month and a half to 2 months writing and rewriting expositions. We have some friends joining us, doing some voice work with us, so it's turned into quite the ordeal. It's been a bit exhausting, and to be honest, we're just barely scratching the surface as we speak now.
Yeah, and a big thank you to Ali Ingram for her voice work in the intro of this week's episode.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she did a great job. We banged that out in about an hour, and it was so awesome. I remember being so excited when we finished it. But to start off, just bear with us. We won't go too much detail about the change in the format. Bear with us. We are going to be releasing weekly for these next 5 episodes, and we are starting with one of James's favorites, the Sea Hags. They can be found in the Monster Manual, page 176 and 179. And some of this information is also found in Volo's Guide to Monsters, basically around page 52 to 62 and page 159 to 160. But we're going to start with the general lore of hags in general. I worded that great. Go ahead, James.
Yeah. So I do really like the Sea Hags. Out of all the hags, I think they're my favorite. I have a penchant for all things ocean-wise. You
mean a penchant. Penchant de mer.
Wait. Why? So let's try not to get racially offensive right off the bat.
But, I'm from New Brunswick, about that.
For those of you who don't know, the province of New Brunswick has 2 official languages, including Quebecois French and North American English.
Acadian French. Thank you very much. Not Quebecois.
I think we're saying the same thing here.
You tell that to the Acadians. I'm not.
And this has been Canadian Cultural History. I've been your host, James. Thank you for joining us for Sea Hags.
That'll be all.
That'll mostly found around the New Brunswick area. I don't even know where we were.
In the Bay of Fundy. There's plenty of Sea Hags.
Yeah. We're having Fundy here, I'll tell you that.
No.
That's a James original. No one's ever made that joke before.
God. Okay. Well, that went off the rails real quick.
Faster than the Ettins one. Mm-hmm. Okay. So today we are talking about Sea Hags. As previously stated, they are one of my favorite of the hags. I do enjoy undersea things. Not limited, including but not limited to Richard Attenborough's Blue Planet, specifically the Deep Oceans episode. Love that shit. Love the sound of the ocean.
Amazing.
Love snorkeling, scuba diving, all that stuff. But today we're talking about mythical sea creatures. Mythical is not the right word. Fictional sea creatures. We're going to start with some general lore about sea hags.
Or just hags in general. If you please.
Oh my God. We should just restart this.
We can.
Hags are ancient beings with their origins in the Feywild, but are traditionally considered soars upon the material plane. Don't want them here.
Soars,
yep. That is verbatim.
Wow.
Yeah, they're much maligned. Traditionally, they have long, withered faces with hook nose, moles, warts, blotchy skin, and long, skinny fingers topped with claws. I take a lot of issue with a lot of the stuff we're going to cover under the general lore section here because it all gets wiped out when we get into the more specific stuff. Mm-hmm. So this was clearly written before they realized that hags were going to be a real fucking thing in D&D.
Yeah.
But they possess intense magical power and they can alter their forms. They reproduce by stealing and eating human babies. Then a week later, they give birth to a human-looking daughter.
Gets dark real fast.
Yeah, listen, guys, hags. That disclaimer at the front is just gonna keep going through. These are bad. They make me uncomfortable. I do not like role-playing hags. They're so problematic, and just so all of our listeners are aware, those who aren't particularly familiar with D&D, when we talk about them, are going to exclusively refer to them as females. That is not our choice. That is a choice that Dungeons & Dragons Wizards of the Coast has made. There are no male hags.
They only ever take on a female form.
So I want to get that clear right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they then raise these daughters as their own or return them to the grieving parents only to watch their horror as the daughter grows up. Upon said daughter's 13th birthday, they transform into the spitting image of their hag mother. Hags love a bargain. They maintain contact with each other and share knowledge. They don't really seem to like each other, but they have an ageless code of conduct. They announce themselves before they enter another's territory. They bring gifts. They do not break oaths to other hags.
All of these things will be covered in more detail as the episodes go on. We just want to cover the basics that are mentioned in the Monster Manual to start, and then a lot of them are further explained through Volo's Guide of Monsters and in various excerpts. So there's tremendous more detail behind each of these facts.
Yeah, each one of those points we tend to go into more detail about. There's some that we're not going to touch on. Like the fact that they say they traditionally have long withered faces with hooked noses, and like, fuck that description. Make your hag look whatever you want it to look like, and I'm gonna destroy that with my next sentence.
All right.
So sea hags specifically have pallid skin, slimy scales. Their hair resembles seaweed and covers their entire body. Their eyes are glassy and lifeless, similar to a doll. They tend to live in dismal and polluted lairs, specifically underwater, usually surrounded by marrow and other aquatic monsters. Sea hags hate beauty. They seek it out and want to destroy it. When they see hope, they want to bring despair. When they see courage, they want to inspire fear. They are known as the ugliest of all the hags, which I also think is contradicted later on in one of our further episodes. And they can hide their true form under an illusion, but the illusion is still ugly. And I think that's where it comes into play. That's why they're the ugliest of all hags, is because even their illusory form is still
right. I think
ugly.
3 to 4 out of the 5 types of hags can take on this form. I think the Annis hag is the one exception. But it is kind of cool that they are specified that even they cannot produce a beautiful image where the rest of them can, or at least a relatively,
passable.
Yeah, passable. Yeah. A relatively passable visage or image.
Yeah, and ugly's a subjective term, so I take issue with that as well. But they're really trying to hammer home the point that these are your traditional witches.
Right.
Like, these are your
wicked witches of the West.
Yeah, I hate that I said traditional witches. I understand that witches are a thing that people identify with. These are your traditional fictional witches.
These are your Halloween witches. These are your
Wicked Witch of the East. Yeah. These are stereotypical. Is that the right word?
I would say, stereotypical.
Yeah, I don't want to. I have friends who are Wiccan, so I really don't want to place any offense on that religion or belief.
It's more of it's really, the stereotype isn't in that it's physical image.
Yeah.
That physical makeup of what they are. Not in the actual belief system or lore or power.
Exactly, yeah. I want to make sure we separate that right off the top.
100%.
This is a cartoonish version of it, and that cartoon is dark.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go into a subsection called Ugly, Unpredictable, and Old. And the number one thing I want you to take away from hags in general, listeners, are that they are mysterious and they are fucking dangerous. They are traditionally unpredictable in their behavior. Verbatim from Volo's Guide to Monsters is, one day a hag might be stealing and eating children that wander into the woods. On another day, she might be making lewd jokes to adventurers asking her advice. And the next she might be uprooting saplings to make a fence around her home for impaling intruders. There's no real logic to these. I mean, there is a logic to these creatures, but there's no stream of logic. There's no consistency.
Yeah. They don't seem to have a rhyme or reason that sort of the average mortal would be able to sort of pinpoint, I think, is the idea they're going. They do unsettling, unnerving, and unpredictable things. That is their very nature.
Absolutely. They perceive ugliness as beauty, vice versa, except for sea hags, which seems to be the contradictory there, because we already went over that sea hags hate beauty, so they understand what beauty is. Here's what I thought was really interesting, is that hags are almost never found in the Fey Court, the Seelie or Unseelie. One, I thought that was interesting because almost never is very interesting, mm-hmm. So hags are found in such courts. Second of all, I think that's possibly the only reference to the Seelie and Unseelie courts in the 5th edition in the 5th edition books I've seen so far.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I feel like maybe it's mentioned surrounding the elves and Eladrin in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, but I have not really dove into that myself. But my guess, if it's going to be somewhere, it'll probably be there. But I'm with you. It's basically the only reference I've ever come across in the 5th edition manuals.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with them from the Jim Butcher, Harry Dresden books. But both these courts recognize that hags have knowledge and power, and some hags will alter their appearances to be a little bit more beautiful to be courtiers. But this is clearly not the norm as we've established, and they're totally fine living outside of the Fey Queen's whims.
Yeah, I do remember, of course, contradictory to our usual format, I've done a lot of research rather than very little so that you can educate me. We both dove in pretty hard on this. I remember reading that it's often like maybe a younger hag that is more likely to actually enter the court and change her visage, because she kind of is still getting a feel for being this sort of mastermind creature of evil, and they want to sort of impress their other Feykin in order to get something in return. Whereas the older ones, the ones that are more experienced, they just basically don't give a fuck about what they think. They walk in knowing that they have the upper hand on certain things. They have knowledge that these courts want, and they don't care what they think.
Yeah, so that's one of the later points, is that the oldest and wisest of the grandmother hags, so hags are regular hags, they're aunties. Aunties gain their status from serving a grandmother or leading a coven or even just age. Grandmothers are the oldest and wisest of hags, and they're nearly as powerful as the Archfey. And when we say Archfey, we mean, what are they? The lady, the queen, and the grandmother of the Seelie courts. And the Unseelie courts are the Archfey. So
powerful beings.
And I think the fact of this suite for me is on Volo's Guide to Monsters, page 52, column 2, paragraph 4, line 1. Hags are virtually immortal. They have the lifespan greater than dragons and elves.
Pretty crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. These are not a people. These are not a race for all intents and purposes like dragons or elves would be, or a lot of these other examples that you could give. They are very individual. There are very few of them. The fact that they can outlive
and often like do.
Dragon, and often do. Like, that's pretty gnarly.
We're talking thousands of years.
Yeah, and they
virtually immortal.
Do not die. Yeah, unless killed. It's crazy. Yeah.
Even if they're killed, you never really know if you've killed it, which is they're so
unsettling.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah, they really. I feel like their whole design is just to make your skin crawl and cause discomfort.
And honestly, the more I read about them, the more it did.
Oh, 100%. I love a good dark macabre environment much more than I know you do.
Yeah, I feel like a shower after I wrote each one of these episodes.
It's gritty, and even for me, just sometimes it's just like, wow, that is just, who comes up with this shit? That's crazy.
Yeah. And as we touched on, hags love a bargain. Do not bargain with a hag.
Full disclaimer.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. They're arrogant
do it.
Yeah. They're arrogant to a fault, believing themselves to be some of the most cunning creatures, so they're always open to making a deal, but they always wait for the desperate to come to them for a deal, even though the desperate people know that she's evil and dangerous. Like, they don't fuck around. They don't try and hide that they're terrible.
They often go in thinking that this, whatever it is I need done, is unthinkable to allow to continue. Like, a loved one sick or something like that, and you're going to go make the darkest deal you can. You're almost seeing it as the lesser of two evils.
Yeah,
but you would be wrong.
Or a jilted lover, like a high emotional intensity. Mm-hmm. They live to see the downfall of other people. So their main difference from devils is because they have no interest in harvesting souls, but they want to just destroy this mortal that they made a deal with. They live to make people miserable. Mm-hmm. And when somebody comes to them out of desperation, the hags get to set their own terms. That's terrible.
It is.
Yeah. And normally, if somebody comes to you out of desperation, they're usually coming in secret, which adds to the pressure and time of the bargainer. So all of those things are just something else in her hand, which is not good. However, you are likely to get out in better shape if you have something the hag wants. You could even theoretically start a bidding war between members of a coven or local members. They are curious creatures by nature and enjoy gossip and news about other creatures with specifically long lifespans, like dragons, demons, fae, genies, and they will openly barter with you for this knowledge. And if threatened, they will offer treasures and they'll bribe and they'll do whatever they can to get out of that situation.
You mean threatened as in like they feel genuinely in danger, like they may not get out of
Yeah, hags don't do combat, really.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put them in a combat situation, traditionally they will try and give you something to get out of it.
Right.
But that item is probably cursed or damaged or broken in some way. They're going to try and destroy you.
There's always going to be something subversive. If they're asking you to do something for something in return, even if it's a physical object or some sort of intangible promise, there will always be some evil lurking behind it. Yeah. Even, I imagine, if they're in their own threatened state.
I think especially. Mm-hmm. They are, however, supposedly very respectful when dealing with the Fae because they also have long and powerful lives. And they're creatures of the Hags' native realm. Hags are Fae creatures. We haven't touched on that yet. But so anything that comes from the Feywild or the realm of Fae or one of the courts, they're going to be a little more respectful of, though they are still going to try and get the upper hand. Mm-hmm. So they are loath to offer a fair deal, and they hate coming out on the bottom. But if a deal does appear fair, they definitely have a secret agenda, and they're always secretive about their motivations. Mm. They've been known to corrupt entire villages, leading villagers to sabotage or actively confront adventurers from acting against her because they're holding out that she'll undo a curse that she gave them or complete a ritual or something along those lines. Like they're just not good. Hags and bad.
It's such an interesting approach to evil. They prey on the weak, but they wait for the weak to come to them to be preyed on.
And they openly do this.
Yes, it is known. Like, this is what they do.
Yeah.
And people still will go, right?
Yep.
When desperate times call for stupid decisions.
This is the utmost of stupid decisions. So bad.
I would like to make a small point, too. I love that they respect the other Fae, but they have no love for them whatsoever. They have a respect for them because they probably just understand them and understand their power and their longevity and the value that they have because it's sort of representative of themselves. But they do not have any love for their kin.
I like to think of it as a respect because they have something they want, which is knowledge. Knowledge is learned over time, and anything with a long lifespan deserves a little bit of reverence because they have something the hag wants, and that's some sort of information.
Definitely.
Be that fae or dragon or genie.
And you know what? I'm going to read an excerpt that's written in Volo's Guide to Monsters on page 59. It says, Hags hate to be in debt to someone who's done them a favor spontaneously, outside of any bargain, and so will return favors unexpectedly to such folk. And this comes from Elminster, who we've spoken about before. He wrote a series of books called Elminster Ecologies, I think that were from the third edition or 3.5. That was where a lot of the lore came from for tree ants. But what's curious about this, what I really enjoy about it, is that they take a bargain seriously. And I know for a fact that it'll be covered in one of the future episodes on these hags. But if someone does them a favor, somehow knows they need something and want something, and they do it without being asked, that hag, to a degree, must feel indebted. And I know for a fact we'll cover debts in one of the episodes I'm doing. But I just thought it was kind of cool. They will return the favor unexpectedly and usually with haste.
Yeah, that's so you can't hold it above them. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Elminster's, he's a good author.
What a guy.
He's got good work.
Yeah.
So should we break into the mechanics?
We should, but not before I break into this Blackmail Stout.
Oh, no.
Which I can actually, strangely and quickly, it's a short amount of time.
Listen here, fellows.
Listen here, our strange fellow listeners. It probably helps that I work in hospitality, or we both work in hospitality, but I know a couple of the reps at Strange Fellows Brewing relatively well, and I spoke to one of them and told them we were plugging them, and she was graceful enough to grant us some free cans. So I think we could kind of technically say we are sponsored by Strange Fellows Blackmail Stout.
This week's episode is actually sponsored by Strange Fellows Blackmail Stout.
Actually brought to you.
How about that, listeners? Dreams do come true.
A shout out to Zoe Kirkham for supplying these cans just for Haguary.
All you folks at Strange Fellows, you're doing great work.
Amazing.
Keep it up.
This is going to be the greatest first sip ever.
So bubbly.
Shouldn't have done it that way. All right. Tell me about Sea Hag mechanics.
All right, there's not a lot here. Sea Hags they're a CR2 creature. They have 14 natural AC, and they have 52 hit points. They're hands down the weakest of all hags by what I would imagine is a long shot, but it's been a while since I've looked at green hags. They are a fey creature, as we covered earlier, and they are chaotic evil. So one of my favorite parts about researching hags was seeing all the different languages that they speak.
Yeah, I thought that too.
They each seem to speak a different collection of languages. So common and giant seem to be the two ones that flow through all the hags. And sea hags speak Aquan, which is the elemental water language.
Yeah, which makes sense, more or less.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have the trait amphibious, so they can breathe air and water. So to get back to them being the ugliest of all hags, they have an ability called Horrific Appearance. So within 30 feet of the hag, and you can see its true form, it is a DC 11 Wisdom save, or frightened for 1 minute. Repeat the save at the end of the turn, immune for 24 hours. Unless it's surprised, a target can avert their eyes to avoid the initial save, but has disadvantage on attack rolls. Now, this is a mechanic that is seen all over the place. It's a Medusa mechanic. It's anything that's essentially visual. I like how this ties into that initial lore that these guys are just fucking horrifying. And obviously, a DC 11 is a hot garbage saving roll.
Yeah,
but like frightens is not that bad. Like that, pump that up, Wizards.
Well,
anyway,
CR2.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, this is as much as these creatures are extraordinarily evil and have the potential to be extremely powerful. They are Sea Hag, especially, is an intro to them.
For sure, but that's still a 65% success rate with nothing. Like with a wisdom of 10.
Right.
Like that's. I personally believe anything under DC 12 isn't worth anybody rolling for.
It's a courtesy roll.
It is kind of a courtesy roll. It seems like a wasted mechanic. Anyway, they have one attack, which is their claws. It's 2d6. They have a death glare, which is kind of cool. It also frightens the creature within 30 feet. DC 11 wisdom save. And oh shit! This is way more intense than I thought it was. It's been a long time since I've read this. The target frightens the creature within 30 feet. DC 11 wisdom save, or the creature drops to 0 HP.
No, I think you wrote that because it will end if they drop to 0 HP.
No.
No? Really?
Yeah. It is.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, I remember this one blowing my fucking mind.
Death glare, I guess it's in the name, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is actually this is another thing that's kind of a holdover from an earlier edition. I'm going to quickly flip through my book and you're going to hear it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, those are those crisp pages. Oh, the flow, the glossiness, the luster. Delicious.
Yeah, so I'm going to read this verbatim. The hag targets one frightened creature she can see within 30 feet of her. If the target can see the hag, it must succeed a DC 11 wisdom saving throw against this magic or drop to 0 hit points.
So it's a stacking thing. The horrific appearance first has to affect the target. They have to be frightened. And then if they are frightened, they have to make a second saving throw or drop to 0 hit point glare.
No. The horrific appearance is an AoE, so it's an area effect. The death glare is an attack.
But death glare says targets a frightened creature.
Oh, targets one frightened creature. Yes, so the target has to be frightened.
Frightened first.
Yeah, okay.
Which makes sense. It's a bit of a mitigating factor, so it's not too powerful. But that's huge.
Yeah, that's intense.
A big one. Yeah. And I guess, 0 HP. You have to start rolling death saving throws?
No. I don't think you do.
You just fall unconscious.
I think you just fall unconscious. I mean, I would make you start rolling death saving throws because it's called death glare.
Sure. Okay.
But I rules as written, I don't think you would normally have to. Normally at 0 HP, you're stabilized. Yeah. But I'm a terrible person.
He's out to get us.
Yeah, I am. I really, really am.
It's tough to kill us, man.
Yeah. The next ability is called Illusory Appearance, which is essentially a monster version of Disguised Self. But I really do love how this creature is just wrapped up in fear and ugliness. And all the lore, again, is really well reflected in the mechanics. We don't see that every time, but the more we do the show, the more I really feel like we're seeing that first initial lore is backed up in the mechanics. And there's not a whole lot of chill gaze happening in most of these creatures.
They can't speak Yeti.
You would not believe how many people we've had write in and just either try and justify chill gaze or tell me how much they love how angry that made me. So they're waiting for the next one.
Yeah. I remember reading something around the Sea Hags too. Is one of my favorite things. There's a common theme amongst all the hags that we'll find as we go, that they love to bring people down, right? Like they love, like you said earlier, where there's happiness, they want despair. Where there's courage, they want fear. And that's like each hag sort of has those certain ones, and they're just different descriptors. They're just different synonyms for the same thing across the board. But one of my favorite things that they all do kind of, I think, hate beauty and good natures of any kind. But Sea Hags specifically hate physical beauty.
Yes.
I think that's where it's wrapped up in them being the ugliest. Not even maybe just the ugliest physically, but ugliest like maybe on a personality level in nature. They have an ugly nature. And the thing that I loved is that they don't want to destroy beauty. They want to turn it ugly. It's a very different thing. They see a statue, they want to deface it. They see art, they want to lather blood or something on it to like make it look ugly. They want to, actually deform what's in front of them. They will scar themselves repeatedly as well as their victims to make them. If I remember correctly, I even read too, or maybe as I was writing expositions, I imagined it this way, but I imagine a lot of their victims would be purposely beautiful ones so that they could have the opportunity to destroy that beauty or to deface it.
I think you're actually touching on the underlying theme behind all hags. Even though Sea Hags is easily the least, the one you have to reach the least for, because it is very much physical, tangible beauty. Mm-hmm. But I think all the hags, there's nothing that I've read so far I've come across that say hags want to destroy. Right. They want to torment. They want to crumble. Yeah. They want to change and make you more into them. They
want to witness the downfall.
Yeah, there's no physical destruction. They want to emotionally cripple you. Mm-hmm. They want to destroy your life. But there's no like physical destruction.
Different kind of evil, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's the worst kind of evil, probably.
Very, very much debatably agreed. Also a great sentence by Freeman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just full of those.
Just 100% contradictions. Start to finish.
All right, so what's next?
Layers and regional effects. We're going to hit on some general stuff and then get into the Sea Hag specific stuff.
Okay, so what's a layer? Give me a breakdown of what a layer is in general.
A layer is where a Sea Hag lives. It's usually a manifestation of their particular ugliness, and usually incorporates an element of decay. So a Sea Hag would be like a sunken ship or a destroyed coral reef or a toxic polluted harbor. Mm-hmm. They tend to be in a location that is near to the Feywilds. Makes it easier for them to bargain with creatures from both worlds. Mm-hmm. So, maybe there's a part in the ocean that's particularly magical, and that's, an entrance to the Feywilds. They would traditionally make camp there.
Sure.
They're also always near a civilization, so they can attract mortal visitors. They want both sides of the coin there.
Yeah. I wonder if, as a result, elves encounter hags more than any other race, because they might want to be close to the something that's where the barrier between the mortal world and the material plane and the Feywild is a bit weaker. Would they be drawn to that as well, do you think?
I think humans would probably be their targets. Mm-hmm. Humans tend to have weaker morale than elves.
Sure.
I think elves mechanically get a wisdom bump, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not saying targeted, just interact more with or more likely to encounter because of geographical location.
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember it being specifically human, but I think the longer lifespan of an elf would more intimidate a hag than something like a mortal. They don't want anything that could potentially outlive them. They want something that they can see from the beginning to its peak to its rock bottom to its death, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I like that idea. Mm-hmm. I think, at least in my world, elves don't tend to be drawn to the Feywild. They're like I have Scottish blood in me. I'm not drawn to Scotland.
Fair enough.
Not that has anything to do with this fantasy game that we're imagining we're playing.
Yeah.
But their lairs are also cluttered with shit and treasure, and the treasure tends to be buried within that shit. They always have 2 or 3 escape plans to get out of their lair, which is another reason I think they're virtually immortal. Mm-hmm.
Again, like you said earlier, they don't come up to you in straight combat. Like that's not on their agenda at all. Everything's a plan. Everything's a bargain and a plan.
Exactly. And a grandmother's lair usually is given lair actions, or really whenever you feel like it, specific time of year, completion of a coven, and any other bullshit reason you can think of to give them more power.
Yeah.
They also tend to affect the region that they settle in. So generally, birds, rodents, snakes, spiders, toads, and other appropriate creatures are found in abundance in this area. Intelligence 2 or lower beasts are usually charmed by the hag and hostile, which could be a lot of fun. And then this point is just dumb. Figurines, twig fetishes, or ragdolls just magically appear in trees.
Sorry. I remember reading this like maybe a week ago when I was quickly scanning through your notes, and then I was also doing my own notes and was like double checking some of the general lore and stuff. And I also was like, this is a general thing you get in the lair, so that doesn't make any sense.
No,
like,
if this was
they all have their
green
own
or anise,
things, yeah.
You know, a fucking ragdoll magically appears on a dock. Like that
is very obviously just, but like it's like you said earlier. This before was because realized they were going to flesh them out further. This was just like
this is in Volos.
This is in Volos.
Yeah, regional effects are in Volos. Right. Yeah, they knew what was happening, and they still wrote that sentence under general. Sorry, guys.
I mean, I like the general idea that unsettling things would appear in the trees, but just make them figurines, twig fetishes, and ragdolls. Like
those are
make them specific to what that creature is.
Or don't give examples, or just don't give bad examples.
Yeah, you dropped the ball on that one, Wizards.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the more I read through the Hag section of Vol's Guide to the Monsters, I think in Burr Hags I actually have a note that says somehow they stretched this one sentence out to a full fucking paragraph. Like it is some of it is wordy for the sake of being wordy.
Oh yeah, okay. We're getting paid by the letter, boys.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like it. But within a mile of the Sea Hags lair, surfaces are usually covered by a slippery and sticky slime. Currents and tides are very, very strong, and piloting a ship has disadvantage, so they added a mechanic there, which I thought was kind of cool.
Okay.
Shores are filled with dead fish, and handling a dead fish can cause it to speak with the hag's voice.
Oh, that is weird.
Yeah.
You know what? They've turned from dark to a bit comical in the last few sentences.
I don't. I'm gonna
imagine picking a fish and it's like, I'm a sea hag.
Those what pages are they? They're the first pages that we quoted in Volos, 52 to 62. I don't really love most of that information. Like even the suggested lair actions for a sea hag. So the DC for a sea hag is the same as the hag's. Sorry, the DC for a lair action is the same as the hag's highest. So that means if a sea hag has lair actions, their DC for said lair actions is still just 11.
Right.
So on the initiative count of 20, they can fill up to 4 10-foot cubes of water with ink that are heavily obscured, which the hag ignores. They can cast simulacrum on one humanoid.
I've always wondered how to say that word. Simulacrum?
Simulacrum, yeah, I believe. That is formed out of detritus and acts until it is destroyed at the initiative count of 20 of the next round. So this only lasts for one round.
Okay.
Granted, Simulacrum is a 7th level illusion, a spell that creates a duplicate of any creature without gear and only half the max HP, but it's still...
Yeah.
Like, I just think those are garbage lair actions. Like, I feel like they just kind of...
So here's the thing about lair actions that I kind of got the idea from is that because lair actions aren't hag specific by any means, right? Lair actions, beholders have them.
Dragons have them.
Have
anything
them.
With like a
unicorns
lair.
have them, right? And when it comes to the lair and the actions, I think a lot of time, at first anyway, for me, I always imagined these were things they would use in combat when fighting them. But no, these are things that happen as you approach, as you are investigating the lair. They happen around you. They have the ability. There is some information there, like surrounding the lairs, where when you're in the lair, any of the hags can pass through walls freely and whatnot.
So these lair actions actually specifically happen on the initiative count of 20. Most lair actions happen on the initiative count of 20. There's stuff that happens in the lair specifically, which I think I have somewhere else. Maybe I didn't write it down. The abilities that they get, like you said, travel through walls and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But these are combat actions.
Right. Well, here's the thing there too, is I feel like with the layer actions, the initiative count 20 is listed for the eventuality that they could be used in combat. Not necessarily they have to be. You know what I mean? Like take that first one, for example. You're not necessarily, especially at level 2, you're not necessarily going to be fighting the Sea Hag underwater. So the heavily obscured part is kind of redundant. But if you are, maybe you have to dive in and swim under something or through a tunnel to get to the Sea Hag or make your way through its lair, it then uses that ability, not an initiative count, but just in general for flavor as the DM. These are suggestions for the DMs, and then you maybe have to roll a survival check to navigate your way through these heavily obscured waters.
But mechanically, we're getting into homebrew at that point because these are specific in combat on the initiative count of 20.
Sure, yeah.
Like I don't mind using them outside of combat. I just think these specifically, I've seen some good layer actions and I've seen some bad ones. And so far, all of the hag ones, I think, are just
hot garbage.
I honestly don't they don't. I hate saying this, but it doesn't feel like they really tried.
Okay.
Like they're just not good to me. They do really seem a bit half-assed. Sure. Like you said, 4 10-foot cubes of water heavily obscured the hag can ignore. Like. That's great in combat. You create a little bit. You are changing the battlefield. Yeah. Casting a 7th level spell for 1 round without any gear, half health, which those are out of the spell itself. But 1 round, an unarmed strike at 2nd level is probably only going to be 1 attack. What good is that really going to do? Like an unarmed strike is what, 1 damage?
I mean, technically, yeah, 1 plus.
Like that's all flavor to me.
Mod, yeah.
Like what the a meat shield? Like just give the hag like an octopus or some shit. It will be better than this single lair action. Just allowing them access to a single 1/8 marrow.
To make this even worse for you, it's that lair actions are suggested as you've listed here, right? And it's specifically Volo's guide says that lair actions are usually only available to grandmothers.
Yeah.
And when we're talking grandmothers, we were talking. They don't have to be to the level of the Archfey in power, but we touched on how long they have to live and how powerful they have to become. So we are talking about a homebrewed CR and challenge rating for these hags. So this is not a level 2 hag that's using lair actions, unless you want to. It really is up to you. But in general, they suggest that it is for the more powerful ones. And so even like say the sea hag's like a CR 12, and they're still only just doing ink in the water. I think you're right. It's a bit half-assed.
Yeah, let me find sea hags again.
Okay.
Listen to that sound.
Oh man.
You can hear my tabs flowing in the wind. Yet somehow I didn't tag habs like a... I didn't tab hags like a goddamn grown-up listener.
Didn't tag abs?
Didn't tag abs. Okay, so if I were going to create a grandmother sea hag, the easiest way I think to do this would be to give them the covens shit. Like just don't include a coven, but just give them the coven spells and then increase that CR.
Which, by the way, we will be covering covens in the next episode.
Yeah. So a Sea Hag, member of a coven, is still only a CR4 creature.
Oh, CR4, that's right, yeah.
Get your shit together.
Just
give the Sea Hag
later
an
on,
octopus.
we will also cover something called weird magic, and they give you a couple of minor examples, but they are so non-specific in that lore of what it can do.
I wrote weird magic today.
Did you? Yeah. I've employed some weird magic in the background of the expositions through this whole suite, but I think weird magic's probably one of the coolest parts.
Yeah,
but it's and I think layer actions and regional effects have the potential to be one of the coolest parts. So,
but I just think through. Yeah,
my biggest recommendation today is just have the most fun with it. Get crazy. Take inspiration from the real dark sides of these creatures and. Yeah, maybe use the suggested layer actions and whatnot and regional effects that are there as inspiration.
For sure. If it were me, I would give them an octopus, a creature with the stats of a regular octopus, and make it a cuttlefish.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then give them the invisibility spell. So this cuttlefish can just cast invisibility on itself at will.
That'd be amazing.
And then that would be like, just fuck these lair actions.
Okay, now we're getting into homebrew.
Yeah, their lair actions, it's just this sweet little cuttlefish that flies around.
Yeah.
Look up cuttlefish. Not only are they delicious, they're super interesting.
Yeah, they're wicked. Cuttlefish are amazing.
Everything about them. They're like goats.
100%.
They're just delightful and delicious.
So, I mean, the lair actions for a sea hag, there's only the two of them, right? It's the simulacrum. It's the simulacrum and the 10-foot cube water and ink. We will
40-foot cube.
40-foot cube, sorry. 4 10-foot cubes.
Inky water.
But what we will, which I think is really exciting about the difference in format, and this is that we are going to sort of avoid our usual discussion of experiences and homebrew at the end of each episode, and we're going to save them to the end of the last episode. And kind of review them for each hag that we've talked about so far, and kind of just bulk it together and kind of go through the different steps. We'll talk about the layer actions and the regional effects we would like to see, the weird magic and the changes to covens and that sort of thing. And just group it all together and go hag by hag.
That's going to be a long section. I got a lot to say on homebrew.
I can't wait.
All right, listeners, I think that's going to do it for Sea Hags. We will have this recorded by the time you listen to it. So if you haven't gotten at us at Twitter...
I'm sorry, what? We'll have it recorded by the time you listen to it?
Yeah, I was going to say the next episode.
Oh.
So we'll definitely have green, anise, burr. We're going to say burr for the purposes of this episode.
Yeah.
And night hags, all recorded by the time you listen to this. So I think our next scheduled episode is Rakshasa. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but I'll work on that as we go.
Rakshasa, yeah.
I think it is Rakshasa. Actually, Jason Wiseman just covered it as the creature of the week on Myths and Legends last week.
Cool.
So I'll re-listen to that. But that's going to be our next episode, so hit us up on Twitter for that. That will be released the second week of February, and we have been at Encounter.
Our next
regular scheduled episode. Yeah, so this will be 5 weeks of hags. You're going to get Sea this week, Green next week, then Anise, followed by Burr, and we're going to cap it all off with Night Hags and Homebrew, and I think Homebrew might end up just being its own episode.
We might have to do another bonus episode. That's fine.
So stay tuned for Rakshasas in January, and send us any stories you got about them. Hit us up on Twitter at EncounterPod. If you're feeling generous and you want to throw your money away, feel free to donate to us at patreon.com/encounterthis. Please rate, review, and subscribe. At least the rate and the review part. That really helps us with placement on the iTunes store, and whatever platform you're listening to this on is fantastic.
For the love of God, let us beat Encounter.
Yes, there is a pod. No, we're not touching it. No, we're good.
We want to be more popular.
Yeah, just make us the most popular Encounter podcast. But share it with a friend. Tell somebody you like. Tell somebody who likes D&D. Tell somebody who doesn't like D&D.
Tell your mother.
I don't think my mom listens to it, but my dad does, and he says hi. So
call up that aunt that you really dislike and tell her that you found a podcast that's all about her.
Oh.
Too mean? We can cut that.
Yeah. Thanks again for listening, creatures. And we will see you next week with Green Hags.
Green Hags. Can't wait.
Stay classy and avoid a good deal. Posey! Over here, Posey!
Harry calls out with a gleeful wave and a broad smile. Fumbling with his hammer, nails in one hand, and several posters under the same arm, he drops every bit of it. Meanwhile, his free and waving hand frantically reaches for the nearby bunting for support, and his muscular build inevitably proves too much for homemade twine. Clumsily falling flat on his back, a handful of local volunteers bursts into laughter, pointing fingers at a now windless Harry. This sort of grace, or rather lack thereof, is pretty typical of Harold Holler, if a tad embarrassing for a sturdy sailor, and it never ceased to amuse. Posey rushes over, stifling her own fit of giggles, and helps him to his feet. As she does so, she catches out of the corner of her eye a sneering Reginald Craycatcher. She was not alone, as the laughter all around audibly subsided. One would think Reg was upset from the now obvious setback in decorating for his daughter's birthday, but the mayor's crankiness knew no bounds, and his concern for Emmy Craycatcher was likely on par with his concern for the cuts and bruises shared by her and his own knuckles, which is to say, no concern at all. Ren, you start awake. Cold sweat sweeping into your battle-worn garb. Ren, you find yourself frantically looking around, trying to regain your bearings, only to find yourself waking from a nightmare into nothing less than a waking nightmare. Posey sits across the campfire from you. Once, an innocent young woman, now a hardened battle maiden. She gives you a solemn look of pure and unabashed understanding. No words need be spoken. You quickly sort through your own confusion. Ever since Posey admitted that she too saw Harry in the peripheries of this God's forsaken place, you've felt reassurance and terror at war inside of you. In the end, it's no wonder you dreamt of that particular moment, though such stark detail in a dreamlike retelling causes you to shudder. As a bard, you are all too familiar with hyperbole and sensationalism, but over the years you've learned that the detailed and harsh truth is what truly rattles one's bones. You were once thankful that memory could never really be as clear as the pristine waters of Craycatcher's Bounty. Now, memory and dreams are masterwork paintings of macabre making. Morbid, moving pictures, immaculately made by the most prestigious of map makers. And true to recent form, as you let your thoughts meander, they pick a path of their own, and you can't help but recall the remainder of that day. It was altogether mundane for the most part. Harry's tumble was a delightful highlight, Reginald's scowling a sobering moment. But work was to be done so that celebration could be had, and you carried on with your decorative duties, topping off the day's labors with this mug of stiff scallop wine. By the end of your first mug, however, a commotion arose from beyond the tavern door, replete with screams of terror. You ran out to the town center and faced a truly horrifying scene. 2 enormous snakes snapped and hissed at everyone emerging from the nearby buildings. Beyond them knelt what appeared to be an elderly woman dressed in a dark brown robe. Hood covering most of her features, you were still sure it was Auntie Mudgums, the local hermit. As if her presence and giant snakes weren't strange enough, 2 grotesque creatures you had never before seen flanked them, their hair seemingly made of seaweed, their skin a pallid blue, their bodies crooked, scarred, and emaciated. And at the side of one was Emmy Twiggy Craycatcher, gripped by the scruff of her neck, and her father cowering in fear, crying enough tears to keep the mourning tide in. Behind you, Posey and Harry emerged from the tavern with a loud gasp and a stunned grunt. You reached your hand to the bag of holding at your side, and one at a time drew 2 short swords, handing one to each of them. They blinked at you, jaws agape, with equal measures of disbelief. The stare you sent back, however, changed their expressions to that of encouragement and inspiration. They may not have known it, but you had done this before. You turned back to the menagerie of obvious evil, drawing the rapier tucked into your sash. You spoke loud enough for only you and your new companions to hear.
Leave the serpents to me. Save the child. Fear has no power over us.
Roll for initiative.